Hey guys, it's Rachel. In this tutorial, I'll show you how to create realistic snow using the Color Therapy app. If you'd like to follow along, find this image under Snow. You can make any image in the app look like it's a swirling snowstorm. I'll show you the steps I use to do this. All right, let's start off with the frozen palette. So let's set it to gradient. I'm gonna use the third color on the top row, and I'll make it so it is darker at the top and just tap in the background. And then for the foreground, let's use the same color, but just flip it so it is darker on the bottom and tap it into the snow in the foreground. Now, in the frozen palette, set it to solid now, and I'm using the fourth color on the second row, and I'm just gonna tap in the buck. So I have some context. So you'll also want to color in the buck first for the most part so that you can layer the snow over it. So you'd want to add in the details. Now in the frozen palette, let's use the fifth color on the top row, and then let's use the airbrush tool, size 30 and opacity 75. And with coloring inside the lines modes set to on, just add some light areas into the snowbanks in the foreground. And then you want to switch over to the second color on the second row of the frozen palette and just add in some more snow into the background. Just a little bit, so it's gonna fade into the foreground or into the background a little bit. You'll also use that gray to add a little bit of shadows in the foreground to the snowbanks too. And then switching back to the fifth color on the frozen palette, just kind of blend in the snowbanks that we did in the background a little bit. We can lower the stroke opacity too, just to see how it's looking. Now let's make the sky look like it's really dark and stormy. So I'm using the first color on the second row in the frozen palette. Let's do size and opacity at 70. Now I'm just gonna draw in some dark shadows into the sky, just some little shapes. And then I'll use the sixth color on the second row just to darken it a bit in some areas. Just adding some blue to it. It looks really stormy. Now let's just blend the sky with the smear tool. I'm gonna just do the size and intensity at 100. And with coloring inside the lines mode on, I'm just gonna swirl those clouds and blend them in the background. We wanna make it look very blurry. That's the goal. Because there's so much snow swirling around that it's hard to see. In the frozen palette, let's use the lightest color now, and let's select the crystal tool. Size 100 and opacity at 1. I'm gonna add little dots to the foreground and the sky. Now we'll switch to the glitter tool, and then we'll use the second color to the right on the second row, and I'll do size 100 opacity at 1 as well, and I'm just gonna add it just here and there into the sky in the foreground. Now we're gonna go back and continue layering. I'm using the smear tool again, and just a few areas I'm gonna blend it. Not every single area though. This will help to keep it looking like it's swirling. Some areas will be in focus and some will be blurry. Let's use the splatter tool, size 8 and opacity 25. So you want to sample colors from the sky, and then you can dot them in here and there. And you'll also want to start adding in these layers now to your buck or your animal in the foreground if you finished coloring them. We'll start to add in these layers. And let me zoom in here and see how I'm kind of combining some of the layers of the splatter tool in one area. And do that in a few areas. Then raise the size to 40 and opacity at 1 and add in some more layers. So I'm just sampling some of the darker areas of the sky as well as the lighter areas and just adding it in more here and there. With the fairy dust tool, set the size to 1 and opacity at 75. And I'm using the second color on the second row of the frozen palette, and I'm just gonna splatter in and sprinkle in some of this fairy dust. Now, I like to not use the stars. So if you don't want to use the stars, if you just want to use the dots, I would do that so it's more realistic. Now you can remove the stars by just using the smear tool, or you can hit the back button. In the frozen palette, I'm going to use the first color, and with the airbrush tool, I'm going to add a little bit of darkness to the sky, even more, just to add more depth and dimension. So I'm going to do opacity at 40 and the size at 70, and just adding it in just in little dots, just to really like darken some areas. Now for the fine details, we can add some manual snowflakes in. So I'll use the pen tool for that. So I'll set the size at 35 and opacity at 40. And with white, I'll just add some little smeary lines. These are going to be your big snowflakes. You can also raise it even higher up to about 65, I would do, and add in just a few here and there. So you're basically just dragging your finger. And then with the airbrush tool, you can do a size between 1 and 15 and opacity at 100. And using white, you can just add in more snowflakes. So long ones, short ones, tiny ones, big ones. We can lower the size. And you can also let some of them drag your finger a little bit so that it looks like they're just flying along. Make sure you add a light layer of snow on your subject as well, using the same tools and techniques. To really top it off, you can even use the snowflake effect in the app. If you'd like to see more tutorials like this, don't forget to subscribe to the Color Therapy YouTube channel so you don't miss any new tutorial videos. Thanks for watching our tutorial. You can get the Color Therapy app for free on the App Store.